in our heads.
Mm-hmm.
And pornography makes sexuality into a fantasy that lives in our heads.
Yes.
Um, and getting rid of that running loop puts us back in our bodies when it comes to sexuality, I believe. And I think it's very important. For me, a big part of what enabled me to kick the habit is that we keep a Eucharistic discipline where if you've committed sexual sins such as masturbation, it's highly suggested if you have a good spiritual father, it's very common in the Orthodox Church that you'll be instructed to confess before you receive communion again.
Mm.
So I kept that discipline, and sometimes I wouldn't take communion for a week or two if I was waiting for confession with my spiritual father. Sometimes I was very embarrassed to like make another confession with him after I just had one a week ago, so I'd wait a week and like,
dude,
things like that. But the idea of like keeping yourself pure when you're approaching holy things is like a through line throughout the Bible, and so the idea would be you have to purify yourself if you've committed certain sins, and that's the only thing that's enabled me to kick the habit. I think that was very useful for me.
I'm totally resonant with that, because for me to begin that journey, and this is what I loved about you, that part of your bio that said lover of truth. Like, it's not just being trapped in, is what I believe true, but like, am I a true person?
Mm.
And that's what we're talking about is, am I a truthful person? Am I full of the truth? Have I confessed the truth? Have I purged this deceit from my heart? Like, and it's terrifying and even embarrassing and shameful. And it should be, and there's different levels of that, like, I'll bring that into my story, which was, this truth of my betrayal of my vows and infidelity came to light, and I was appropriately fired. But the truth of what that actually meant, what that true story was not something I was ready to confess. Didn't want to. I thought I could control that to make it less bad. Just like I was saying about when I was 15, all the way. It's like, if what I say is less bad, maybe it is less bad. I don't even know, like, it's this logic that, for whatever reason I chose to believe for most of my life. And that's a lot of therapy too, but it's like, so my wife asked me a direct question. We're trying to figure things out. We're not, about a week or two later from all the initial fallout, like I said, I didn't want to be true to that. And she asked me a direct question. I lied to her, and I realized, like, oh, I'm not going to change.
Mm.
And she said, Christian, if you're lying to me, that's going to continue to be found out in your life. But if you'll tell me the truth, I'll meet you at the truth. And I was like, do you promise? She said yes. I hung up the phone, and I'm just like terrified, fetal position, realizing like this is my reality. And then I saw an image of Abraham's dagger coming down towards Isaac in my mind, like kind of a phenomenological situation. And then that was what I realized. For me to trust God with the truth was like, literally, I had to like offer my family up onto the altar of reality and of truth, and allow the dagger to start to come down, like, and trust God that no matter what, that the truth was better. And so I wrote out a confession, a true confession. I sent it to her, and it was a lot worse before things got better. But, that there was a miracle that took place and all of that, and that we have our life together, and it's a beautiful life. And like, that was, like I said, when I saw that, and even what we're talking about, like that truthful confession and that practice, my first podcast that I got on was this guy named, he goes by Chad the Alcoholic, but he's got a channel called the Friday Morning Nameless. And he said, after I had this initial video of like, why am I on the internet talking about stuff? It's because of Jordan Peterson and Paul Vanderklay and Jonathan Peugeot, and I want to talk about this. And in that podcast, he asked me, well, what's the most helpful spiritual practice that you've found in your life? And I said, it's been confession. Confessing the truth. And so when you hit on that, I was just like, as the antidote for the pursuit of a more whole and a more true and a truthful life. Like, and it's a participatory thing. It's a doing thing. It's not just an assent to a belief. And
Yeah,
so
it's
yeah,
a
man.
very, very beautiful story, and I think you're very lucky. It takes two to to do that. It takes three, right? It takes three to do that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think there's something about confession and its relationship to sacrifice.
Yes.
Like you're sacrificing your ego.
Yep. It was an ego death first. That was the end of it. That was the end of it.
Yeah, and it takes amazing faith, right? And I think for me, as I've approached marriage, I've had to think about, okay, in what ways am I still holding on to things that aren't going to be useful in marriage, and how to make more sacrifices, and ask myself, am I willing to make those sacrifices? That's something that I've been doing, and I think every time I make a sacrifice, so far, I found it's been tolerable and good, and led me closer in uh, to where I want to be.
Worth it.
Yeah, but yeah, that's a powerful. I like your story. Is It's moving for sure. It takes a lot of. I think the thing that would move someone to do that um, is that realization that you'll never change unless you give up control.
Yeah.
Because if you stay in control and you keep managing your own perception, the other's perception of you, then you can't progress. I think that's what I take out of that.
Have you found, I mean, that sounds like, I mean, I feel like that's what you were giving up control of your faith and even of the propositional and in deciding to participate this. And it was a more measured journey to a degree. It wasn't like necessarily there's probably been moments, more serious moments, but that's the same journey.
I've had some, yeah, I've had some hard confessions, but thankfully, confessions are between me and my priest, and so they're not the it's not you know it's not always as hard. It limits the difficulty. Um,
Well, but there's people that still don't do that.